I wouldn't even look in a mirror for a year because I was so ashamed and embarrassed of my own reflection.
Losing all her hair,
My identity was completely ripped away from me.
gave her something she never knew she needed.
It took me almost 40 years and losing every hair on my body to discover true self-love.
Now McKenna Reitz is bringing awareness to alopecia.
I remember standing in the shower and thinking, how am I still going to be a mom looking like this? Is my husband still going to love me?
And empowering others to love themselves.
You lost that physical aspect of yourself, but you found yourself within.
This is me, and I love me.
On an all-new Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers.
This is Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. Hi, McKenna. Thank you for joining me today. Welcome to Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. I'm really excited for us to connect and meet.
I am so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Your story is just so inspiring. Now, I know a lot of people struggle with things like appearance and self-worth, but you had a very pivotal thing, obviously, in your life that made you really dive deep. So let's start there. Why don't you give me your story of really what happened? Because I know, but I don't know if all of the listeners know exactly what prompted you to really pivot your life.
Yeah, it's amazing that, as females, everyone, but especially as females, I'm watching my young daughters who are in 6th and 3rd grade go through the different ages and stages of life and how we become self-conscious and how we start comparing ourselves. And so if you feel like you're alone and the only one that does it, you're not alone. Every single person compares. And so I was always self-conscious growing up. And ironically, I was very self-conscious about my hair. I had really frizzy hair, a lot of it. And I was made fun of all the time because of it, because I had so much, and kids used to make fun of me, call me names, throw things in my hair. And, it wasn't until I was in my late 20s when I finally learned how to, we'll say, tame the hair, and I fell in love with the hair. And then we had our second daughter in May of 2015, and I was teaching in August. And now I taught for 18 years. I taught AP psychology. I coached varsity volleyball, being a mom, lots of stress going on. And when I was teaching, I noticed my shoulders were covered with substantial amounts of hair. And I thought it was just normal postpartum hair loss that you go through those stages. I went to a dermatologist, and the dermatologist said to me, McKenna, you could have something called alopecia, and you could possibly lose all your hair. And, it was kind of like a surreal moment of that will never happen, So they gave me some topical creams and to slow it down. It still was coming out, but it felt like it slowed down. So I'm thinking, everything's good. November 1st, we take pictures for our Christmas cards. And then by the end of the week, I was sitting in the shower with my hands full of hair. And within 3 weeks, 90% of my hair was gone. It came out in clumps. And it felt, in all honesty, I felt like I was going through chemotherapy because it was coming out so fast. And I remember standing in the shower and thinking, how am I still going to be a mom looking like this? Is my husband still going to love me? How am I going to still live a life that I love and be able to go out in public looking like this? And it was detrimental. It was, I couldn't even look at my own reflection because I was so embarrassed. I mean, we all hate looking at a reflection, but I wouldn't even look in a mirror for a year because I was so ashamed and embarrassed of my own reflection. And, I truly believe that my identity was completely ripped away from me. We, as women, we subconsciously identify ourselves with our hair. I mean, we don't introduce ourselves. My name's McKenna Reitz and I am my hair. But when we go out, we are constantly thinking about, how does my hair look? Am I having a good or bad hair day? And how our hair is creating our thoughts, which create our beliefs. And it rocked my world. And it was, but however, is a journey that I would never change because what it has shown me in my life.
What has it shown you?
That I'm enough. I mean, to put it point blank, it took me almost 40 years and losing every hair on my body to discover true self-love. When I was losing my hair, my husband said to me, who is ironically also bald, said to me, McKenna, it's just hair. Like, it's not a big deal. But of course, in that moment in life, hair, it was a big deal. And I was so upset with him because I'm like, you don't understand. But it was probably about a year ago when, I've started to love my reflection and realizing that alopecia has not given me my purpose. It has shown me what my true purpose is. I feel that it's always been there, but I've been in my own damn way and I haven't been able to see it. And so alopecia, when I learned that alopecia happened for me and not to me, I remember standing in the bathroom and I was just looking at my reflection. I said, wow, my husband really does love me. He loves me beyond my physical characteristics, beyond my hair. It was myself that was in my own way. We are our own worst enemies. And it wasn't until I discovered the self-love that I realized my husband loves me truly unconditionally. Like, that is unconditional love. And so I learned that I am worth it. I am enough. Like, this is me and I love me.
Isn't that interesting that it takes something so drastic to really show us that we are enough or to show us our purpose? It happens all the time. I just had a episode where, the woman I was talking to had to go through thyroid cancer to find herself and find her awakening and go within and to really realize who her true character was. But I even know what you're talking about from the hair. Like, I obviously haven't experienced something to the extent that you have. But when I moved a little over a year ago from California to Tennessee, I, like every woman, one of the first things you do is you go find a new hairdresser. It was like one of the very first things I did. And I went to find a new hairdresser and I went to someone that seemed very highly rated and literally butchered my hair. The worst haircut I've ever had of my life. Took a razor to it. My hair should not have a razor. And I came back and I was like, I look like Pat Benatar and Rachel Green from Friends. The Rachel had a baby. It was so bad. And I was mortified. And it did. It really kind of rocked who I was by that outside appearance. And by no means, I mean, it took me a year to finally get my hair to some sort of semblance where I could walk out without a hat or some weird, I had hair pieces. I had all the things. Because there was just it was so butchered. There was no fixing it. And I felt very self-conscious. Now, I didn't have to walk around like you did. And I heard you speaking about this a little bit, is that you did start at first wearing the wigs and things like that. But what stood out to me so much is you had a moment where you took your wig off in the car with your daughters, and your daughter said something to you about the fact that she couldn't wait to be old enough to be able to take her hair off. Yeah. What did that do for you? I mean, that must have been such a powerful moment.
It was. What we need to understand as women, as human beings, is that everyone's battling something. We can't compare our challenges to others and ever say, well, it's not as tough, as bad as, everyone has a different perspective and everyone struggles differently and everyone views things differently. I went through 4 years where the first year I wouldn't go out of the house. I wouldn't even be in my house or even go to bed without a hat on because I was so ashamed and embarrassed. Even we would be up at the cottage and my mom would be like, McKenna, just take off your hat. It's okay. I couldn't because I was so embarrassed. I felt so uncomfortable that's the only way I felt comfortable. And so you have to do what makes you comfortable. And I wore wigs because I just wanted to blend in. I didn't want to be stared at. I didn't want the questions asked because I always get questioned. And I felt like I was hiding. And then when my daughter said that, she was only 3 and the wigs are very uncomfortable. And she's like, Mom, I can't wait to be an adult and take my hair off too. It stopped me in my tracks and realized that my perspective is I'm wearing this just to fit in and not to be me. And she sees it as the coolest thing that when she becomes an adult, you get to take your hair off at any time you want. And at that moment, I was thinking, I thought to myself, what am I teaching my daughters? Now, they are my reason of why I kept fighting every day. And then I had to pivot and I had to realize, what if alopecia happens to them? Because it is genetic. what they're going to experience some sort of adversity, diversity, whether in themselves or seeing other people. And how are they going to react to it? How are they going to be challenged by it? And how are they going to continue on? And so that became my mission at that moment, to empower them to love themselves, to accept and celebrate unconditionally adversity and diversity, because it's what makes our world so beautiful and so amazing. Because they were just going to be going into school, and, they don't remember me with hair. And I thought my oldest would, because she was 3 at the time when I was losing my hair. They don't remember me with hair. And I thought, how are they going to view me as their mom? Their mom looks different than everyone else. But it's not how I look. It's not how we look. It's how we treat others, how we leave a person making them feel. It is, how we represent our character that truly defines us. And I want them to understand that it's holding the doors open. It's saying pleases and thank yous that truly defines your identity. And it's not how much we weigh or how tall we are, the color of our skin or our hair. It's how we show up. And that's how I wanted to empower them.
Well, I mean, even saying that, you said you wanted to empower them by demonstrating it for your children. But if you think about it, it's your children who showed you. And I've talked about this a lot, especially from like spiritual and a just all-knowing aspect, is our children come in so pure, so full of life, so connected, so just full of love. And I think that's where kind of this is all coming back to, is like this whole concept of love, whether it's self-love or love from someone else. And it's really our children that are showing us and teaching us to really stand in our own. And the whole concept of our outside appearance, I mean, it's been talked about ad nauseum, through social media and things like that. We put so much of an emphasis on it. How do we really turn that around? How do we change our mindset? How do we start to look within? So, I mean, you were forced into it. I don't know. Who knows if you would be on this path without it? How did you finally learn to accept yourself and love yourself?
A lot of time, giving myself grace period, surrounding myself with others. But when I started to really understand what I have control over in my life, as women, we love to be in control. And when we're not in control, we're going to waste so much energy to find out how to be in control. And what I learned in the first year is that I exhausted every possibility to grow my hair back. I mean, I went to hell and back to get my hair back. And then I said, I'm done. I'm done doing anything physically to my body, internal or external. I have to give my body a break and give my mind a break. And what I realized is that growing my hair back was out of my control. Like, I let go of it. And I started to realize that what is in my control always is my mindset, my attitude about alopecia. Because for so long, I was allowing alopecia to define me, dictating when or if I took pictures with my children at their first Christmas, or going out, or, just being a wife. And, and then I started to define it. I'm not going to allow it to be the narrative of my life. And it started to reframe my mindset and other things, because as I'm going to speak for myself, but we tend to internalize so much, and we wear so many hats, and we put so much pressure and so much weight on ourselves. And when we can dictate in a situation, and I started doing it out loud, am I in control of this? If the answer is yes, I'm going to do whatever I can to be in control. But if the answer is no, what do I have control over? I have my attitude and how I react to the situation. And that's what's really helped me. When people do ask me in the grocery store, are you going through cancer? Are you going through treatment? Can I pray for you? At first, it used to bother me because of how people were viewing me. But then I learned there was an opportunity to bring awareness, to educate others of what alopecia is. And then it gave me a sense of purpose during my dark hours of creating awareness events, creating philanthropic events to bring awareness to not only alopecia, but understanding that we're all battling something where our stories just happen to be visible. And so I'm going to leverage the opportunity to empower others to know that they're not alone and that we are strong enough to get through anything.
Well, that concept of surrendering into it, of what you can't control, is huge. It's huge if you want to create a life, if you want to manifest, if you want to just find some sort of a peace. And it sounds like that's what it gave you, is when you gave in, you were just kind of allowing yourself to be at peace and the acceptance. And then all of a sudden the doors open for you to explore a new path. I mean, you were a teacher. Are you still coaching at this point?
Yep,
or are you
still coaching? Yep.
So, I mean, you're still out there like inspiring children and others, but this gave you such a bigger stage and a platform to share that. And I think it's really interesting. We have to look at this whole world of our concept, like you said, our outward appearance, because we're just the vessel, and it's coming in. And I love that you said, you know, how people were asking to pray for you. It actually shows the character, not so much as like, you don't want people to feel sorry for you. Right. And so how do you rephrase that when you're out and about, you know, and you want to educate people? Like, how do you hold your head up and just be like, this is me, and build that confidence? Because I know that you are like a beacon for confidence through coaching, teaching, all of it all. Like, how do you find that confidence?
Well, thank you. You know, at first when people were asking me, I didn't allow myself to connect with the people. And once I realized that majority of the people that were asking, you know, if I was going through treatment, primarily females, but they have or are going through breast cancer and are going through treatment, or their husbands or fathers or whatever of women who are going through or have gone through breast cancer. And so I was able to change the narrative and look at them saying, wow, they're truly fighting the good fight. And these are incredible people who are still fighting every single day and connecting with people. And so that allowed me to realize that they're living their purpose and I'm living my purpose. And so when I stopped wearing a wig, which was the scariest moment in my life, walking into a grocery store the first time without a wig, now I hate walking into grocery stores wearing a hat. I have not worn a wig in 3 years now. But I wear a hat just to work out so the sweat doesn't go in my eyes. But other than that, I don't like to wear hats because I feel like I am hiding myself. I want to be the face of empowerment for others. That when I am walking in the grocery store, you see me, how I carry myself and my character, that it might empower you just to keep putting one foot in front of the other. And it's not necessarily, you know, let's have conversations. I love connecting with others. That is one of my favorite things to do. Yeah. But if my smile and the way I am portraying myself and carrying myself can inspire you to reframe that mindset, then that is what has built up my confidence. Everyone always asks me, are you still having bad hair days? Or I'm never having bad hair, that's for sure. But if I ever want my hair back, and I don't, because alopecia has shown me what I get to do in life and how I can inspire others, and how it has finally allowed me to find the confidence and walk confidently, knowing that my story is worth it. And so is yours, and so is everyone else's.
I love what you're saying though about the whole connecting thing, because losing your hair gave you a way to connect with others. It allowed you to stand in yourself and connect. And even just by a smile or walking or choosing not to hide when you're out and about is amazing, because it is our energy. It is our energy that introduces us, announces us before we even walk into a room. So I don't think personally, like if I were to walk into a room and see you, I wouldn't see, oh, woe is me. I wouldn't feel sorry for you. You just don't have that feeling about you. But some people would, you know, so it sounds like it was a process. You had to do a lot of inner work to get there. I even heard you talking about the fact that your mom said to you once, like, how do you get up in the morning? Yeah. That's hard, because when you're talking, when someone so close to you is saying something like that, like, it's hard not to internalize it. So how do you not internalize that, especially with those close to you?
You know, I think when it came to my mom, you know, as moms, you know, we want to make sure that we are helping our children get through anything. And when there's nothing we can do, you feel so helpless. And
Yeah.
she was at that point where she didn't know what to do. I mean, she was probably just as lost as I was because, she's 100% Italian. She's a go-getter. She is my rock. And when she couldn't figure out how to help me, what she doesn't understand is that her just being there, being a shoulder to cry on, being someone to talk to is my saving grace. But she is the reason how I got up every day, because that's what she taught me, to persevere through anything in life. And I had daughters watching my every move. I have a family to take care of. I have students relying on me. It wasn't meaning that I was going in and teaching my best, but I was showing up and showing my students, my daughters, and the world that nothing's going to stop us. Is life sucking right now? Yes. But I'm still waking up. Am I going to go back to bed when I get home? Absolutely. Am I going to go cry? Yes. Because when we understand that we are weak, that is when we are truly our strongest. And then it allows us to start to see what we truly are capable of. The fact that I'm still standing and I'm still fighting every day, okay, I'm still doing this. And it allows us to move from 7 out of 7 bad days to maybe 6 and then 4 and then 3 and then 2. And, you have to go through that journey. You have to go through that process and understand that everyone's journey is going to be a different timeline. And you can't compare timelines. We've heard that so much. Just be inspired by timelines.
So you're thankful. You're thankful this happened to you, would you say?
Every day.
It's interesting. So you have to have that breakdown. Do you think we all have to go through that breakdown, or do you think we can learn to love ourselves more without having a big event like that?
Yeah. Being a mom, I don't want my daughters to ever go through something like that.
Yeah.
But life is going to happen. And I am a true advocate that we have to lose in order to win. We can't handle success if we haven't experienced failure. Because it will change our perspective. I'm just hoping that the losses and failures in my daughter's lives aren't as significant, but they are going to have losses and challenges that they do believe are mountains. We all have believed that. When I look at them, like, oh, that's just such a molehill. But to them, it's a mountain. And I'm going to be there, and help them through it as much as I can to allow them to learn from it. And if they can see, what, my mom got through something significant, so can I, then I am doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's, again, what is empowering me to wake up every day. And, my daughter, I heard her telling her sister last night that she's in 6th grade and the kids are making fun. Our last name is Reitz, and someone calls her Reitz Crackers. And, it's, to me, it's such a molehill. And, because I've been through life, you have to experience life. And I can say to her, don't allow what other people say to ever dictate how you feel about yourself. But I have to also remember she's in 6th grade and that her brain development is at such a different stage than where we are. And it's just talking through the feelings. How does that make you feel? Are they friends of yours? Do you want them to be friends? And that's having open conversations will allow growth and will allow us to get through those failures in order to experience the success.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's huge. You cannot find success if you don't fail. Everything can't be rainbows. Everything can't always be that high, because then there's nothing to really gauge it against. So how are your daughters now? Do they stand up for you? Are they just your cheerleaders? Like, how do they accept it? Or is it just kind of like, this is mom?
This is mom. When my oldest went to kindergarten and she came home one of the first days and drew a family picture. And this is still during my, we'll say, partial dark storm. And she drew a picture of me bald. And I had to go remove myself from the room because I was so embarrassed. But they see me as their mom. That's it. Nothing more. And because I wasn't accepting myself, but I get to be their mom and they get to be my daughters. And I am so blessed because of it. And so I'm just their mom. And, they'll get the questions on their soccer team. Why does your mom not have hair? Oh, it fell out. Okay. And that's it. And that's the amazing thing is they don't see me any different. They are wearing their Alopecia Strong shirts all the time and are proud of me to be their mom, which is the reason why I'm so blessed to be their mom. It's, I wouldn't probably be here where I'm at right now if I weren't a mom, to go through that dark storm.
It's really hard when you can see, it's touching too, when you can see yourself through your children's eyes, because we are, especially as women, we are so harsh on ourselves from everything. Like you said, our weight to our appearance, to our hair, whatever it is, we all have our struggles. Even the most beautiful women and the most seemingly perfect women have their struggles, but to your children, you're like perfect. And I struggle with that. I say I'm still trying to lose the baby weight, but my son is turned 2 in June. He's not really a baby, but I'm so self-conscious of it. I grew up in an environment where I was performing. I did beauty pageants. I was the head cheerleader. I was a dancer. I was a performer. And that has been part of my journey, is to really understand who I am inside, because so much of our world is built up about how we are on the outside. It's not easy. It's still something I struggle with on a daily basis. I'm sure you still wake up and struggle, but you said you do like your appearance. You see your appearance and you embrace it and you love it now. How are your daughters like that? Are they gaining that from you?
I hope so. As we hope as moms that we are empowering them to love their reflection, but we have to also understand that I'm not with them right now. They're at school.
Yeah.
And so I hope that when someone says that to them, they don't take it into such a deeper level than they should. And it just stays in that shallow surface. I still battle. I still battle with, my appearance, not dealing with being bald. I'm still trying to lose the baby weight, and my youngest is 8. But that's life. And, it's understanding what am I in control with. I'm in control of how I eat and how I open up the refrigerator and when I go to the refrigerator, but I'm not in control of my hair. But I'm always in control of how I talk to my daughters, how I present myself, being honest with them. My oldest battles anxiety, and so do I. And so we get to have open conversations about how it makes us feel. My husband doesn't understand anxiety, so trying to explain to him and describe to him what anxiety is. And a lot of times there's no answer. We don't know why why we're experiencing the heaviness, but it's just having those open conversations, understanding that it's okay to be sad. It's okay to not be okay. And let's talk through it, and making sure that wherever they're at in their journey, however old they are, that we're able to have those open conversations instead of just saying, how was school today? And them saying good, like every other kid does, using other questions to try and allow them to open up and feel comfortable having those conversations, being able to say, that they make fun of my last name. Okay, let's talk about it, and not saying, well, stop letting other people bother you. No, we have to talk about the social and emotional aspect, because it's become such a significant aspect in our society.
Yeah. I struggle with anxiety too. I'm on anti-anxiety medicine that I, hope at one day I can be off of, but I've been on it forever just because my ruminating thoughts and caring so much what other people think about me. It is debilitating when you care so much about what other people think about you. You stop living for yourself. You start living for the outside world. And that is part of my mission, is to help people come back to themselves so that we can truly live for ourselves and not for the outside world. Yes. And I think what you were even saying about your children is that, like, having those conversations, it is, my daughter's in her 2nd year of preschool and, doesn't want to talk about it. You pick her up and it's like, how was your day? Good.
Yep.
That's it. So we started having conversations like, what is something nice you did for someone today? Or what is something nice someone did for you today? Trying to open it up. And we even have dinner time conversations, we call it, actually my mentor gave it to me, is called the I'm So Great party, where we go around the table and each person has to send, and we do it alternating 10 things that they love about themselves, so that are so great about just trying to build that self-worth. Like, it could be like, I'm so great at taking out the trash, and it makes us laugh, so it's building up these conversations and having more conversations about the outside world, even maybe letting your children dress themselves. It might not be something what we choose, but allowing our spirit to shine through, I think, is key. And really learning that self-love and going within. So what were some ways that like you finally were able to go within in your darkest moments and really, really shine out?
It really helped when others were contacting me, either through direct messages or texts or phone calls, and just saying, you sharing your story, you sharing that you battle anxiety, you sharing that you have tough days, has helped me get through my tough days. And then, I start standing a little bit taller and like, wow, because, everyone says your mess is your message. But what we need to understand is our message is medicine for other people. That when we are vulnerable with our own bad days and good days, we are showing others that they too are not alone. And, having the conversations about anxiety, having the conversations about dealing with depression and dealing with the thoughts that we have in our head, has allowed me to, it's almost therapy for myself. The more I share it, the more I'm feeling better about it, because I'm not holding it in. I'm not bottling it in like I used to when in our younger ages, because we are so worried about what other people think. But I've come to the realization in my life that if you don't like me, if you don't like what I have to say, there's the door. Like, I am over caring to an extent of what other people think, because I have bigger things to do in my life. And what I'm doing, I know is making a difference. And if you're not going to be a part of that, then I don't need you in my life. And I think that's, is navigating through the friendships and the relationships that we have in our life of, is it bringing in positivity or toxicity? And, it's not saying I can't be your friend anymore, but it's just moving in a different direction and realizing who you need to surround yourself with that are going to challenge you to continue striving for greater good every single day. And I think that's been my big thing in my life, is really digging deep of, who do I need to surround myself with to continue building myself and to continue growing as a mom, as a teacher, as a coach, as a speaker, as a human being. And it's going to continually change because our values change and our goals change and our dreams change. But you have to consistently reflect. And if we're not consistently reflect, we're not going to grow into that person that we strive to be.
That's hard though. It's really hard to curate the people around you, because, sometimes it's the people closest to you that can't see you. So how do you navigate that when it's, there is a relationship that might be closer to you? How do you learn to let go? Or is it just more limiting and opening yourself up to new people? Or?
Yeah, I think it's more, when you have those close relationships that you realize that aren't what they used to be, you find yourself, gravitating towards those that are. And so you just, I just started subconsciously distancing myself, and really focusing on and consciously wanting to be around other people. Or my goals, I have a list of things to do, and those have become more of a priority for me than nurturing that relationship. I'm all about law of reciprocity. I'm all about, what can I do for others? How can I support others? But there comes a time when the law of reciprocity is no longer intact. And so then our mind is going to subconsciously start to push us in a different direction. Whether it's the acts of service versus just bringing in that positivity and that encouragement. If it's not happening, I find I just now, because I'm at that stage of my life where I find myself going a different direction, and it's freeing. It's empowering. It's allowing me to continue striving for my goals and my dreams and knowing that there's nothing too big and nothing too scary that I can't reach.
Well, you said something that I keep coming back to. It doesn't matter who I'm talking to in conversation, is the acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
Showing up in service of others opens that door to the people and places and opportunities that really allow us to show up as our best self, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I actually don't like the term best self. I like the term as it's been described to me as your whole self, because there's, we're not always going to be at our best, but we're always doing our best with what we can in the moment. Like you said, there were days that you had 6 out of 7, good days or bad days. And, doesn't mean you're not going to go home and cry. Doesn't mean things aren't going to be hard. You can be positive and show up that way, but it doesn't necessarily mean you're always feeling that way within. And we need to embrace that. We need to embrace all of the things about ourselves, whether it's our hair or lack of hair, whether it's whatever it is, we need to go within. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the key of what happened for you, is like you lost that physical aspect of yourself, but you found yourself within.
Yes. Yeah. And I love talking about branding. What is your brand? What is your personal brand? So if you were to ask someone, what are 5 words you use to describe me? What are those words that are coming out of their mouth? Are they consistency? Are they positive words? Are they negative words? Are they words that you want? Or are they words that you're like, oh, maybe I need to change that? But it all comes down to consistency. So it doesn't matter if I'm talking with you right now, to standing in line at the grocery store, to coaching a volleyball match, or just watching my daughter's volleyball match. I need to be the same brand, the same character, the same person all the time. Because when you're consistent, then people are going to gravitate towards you. And that's when you truly lead. And so I love talking about, then it goes into your leadership brand of how are you leading? And I'm not just talking about at work, I'm just talking about in life. So when I walk through the grocery store and I'm pushing the cart and I'm standing tall and proud of who I am, I'm leading, because I know that people are watching and they're going to react differently. And so we have to constantly then reflect upon our brand. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? And allow us to be okay knowing I have weaknesses, and we have to talk about them. We talk the inferiority complex. We hate being inferior. And when we feel we have this weakness, we are going to amplify all of our strengths to not show our weakness. And then it actually becomes almost non-existent, which is going to ultimately hurt us. And so as leaders, we have to show our weakness. And, one of my weaknesses is I am terrible at remembering names. I can remember faces. I cannot remember names. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to align myself with people that are great at remembering names, because that's their strength and it's my weakness. And then I have a strength that's their weakness. And that's how you lead. It is leading by example. It is leading within, is leading with others and walking together through life. And so it's, what is your brand? What are the words that you use to describe yourself? What are words that people are using to describe you? Are you proud of them? What are the words you want to describe? What is your ideal self? If you still have an ideal self, then we need to align them so they're always one-on-one, which allows you to live a life of endless opportunities.
So do you think your brand, like your own personal brand, we are all essentially a walking, breathing brand.
Yes.
Do you think that differs from your values, or do you think your values and your brand go hand in hand?
That's a great question. I think, my brand are going to be my values. I would, I hope that people hold open the door for me, especially when you're pushing a stroller. When you're trying to push a stroller and open up a door and you're struggling and you just see someone just standing there like, don't you see me struggling? Can you help
seriously?
Me?
Yes.
I'm sure that when I'm seeing moms or dads or grandmas or grandpas pushing a stroller, I am running up to that door to open it up for them, because I know I've been there. Like I am empathetic to their situation. But it's not going to hold me back. So if a person doesn't hold the door open for me, I'm not going to stop doing what I do. And so, there are going to be so many people that don't align with my values. It's not going to stop me from ever being me. And am I still, if a person that I have kind of separated myself with calls me up and says, hey, I need your help, I could say 2 things. 1, sorry, I'm busy, or what do you need? I'm there for you, because that's me. That is my brand. That is my values. Our values might not align, but if you need my help, that is what I represent, and I'm going to be there. And so you have to make sure that you're consistently your brand, knowing your values, but not allowing other people's values to disrupt your own brand.
And how do you do that? Like, obviously, this is something I struggle with, like that outside world, how do you just stay true and stand true in you in that respect? Because as someone who, I don't even know if I'm a recovering people pleaser, I'm still very people pleaser like, which is very common, especially among women, is you want to make sure everyone else is happy. You care so much about other people that you compromise yourself a little bit.
Yeah. What I've learned is that, especially as women, we put everyone else in the front line.
Yes.
And we put ourselves in the back burner every single day. So you get on an airplane, you have to put the oxygen mask on first. That's how you have to start your day. For me, I wake up at 5 a.m. and I go work out, and that is me time. I am pouring into my own cup for 45 minutes. I come home and the house is still quiet for another 10, 15 minutes. And that's me time. Because I know the rest of the day, I am pouring into others. Putting ourselves first is the most difficult thing we can ever do. And even if you have to start with 10 minutes, start with 10 minutes and then keep adding. But then what you're going to realize is that by pouring into yourself, you're going to be a better mom. You're going to be a better wife. You're going to be a better friend, a better worker, a better whatever. And you're going to see the ROI in putting yourself first. Something that I continuously do is, I write down what do I want to achieve by the end of the year? And I don't say, I will do this. I'm putting into existence as though it already happened. And even though it's scary to write down, I'm still going to write it down because I'm learning that I am worth it. Like, why not me?
Yeah.
And if you can also, I used to introduce myself as my name's McKenna Reitz and I'm just a teacher. And we belittle ourselves so quickly. Even in emails, hey, I'm just checking in. No, I am checking in. Like, we are adding in words and thoughts that are completely changing our beliefs about ourselves. And we need to remove those words to understand that I do belong at this table and I'll make my own table. That we are just as important as the next person. And I used to believe that the number of zeros, number of dollar signs, or not, the letters before and after your name created who you are. It's not. And it's me, my brand, and how I give to others and how I say please and thank yous and hold open the doors that truly represents our being.
I love that you were talking about writing things down though, and writing it down as if it happened, because that is a huge thing. I've always talked about journaling being my superpower. If I write it down, it's going to happen. But I've also been reframing that lately as not like, I would like this to happen, because then you're just pushing it off, just writing that down and owning it. And that kind of feels like coming full circle. That's who you are at this point. You have owned yourself. You're not going to apologize, whether it's in an email. You're not going to apologize when you're introducing yourself. You're not going to, which we do. We do that a lot as women. I find myself as you're saying it, I'm like thinking about all the emails I write. I'm like, oh, I kind of, come in really quiet, and that's really not me, but it's putting off that energy. So really owning yourself, standing in who you are, and learning to love from within. And then the outside follows.
Absolutely. It does. And I always talk about your beliefs create your thoughts create your actions, and your actions create your reality. And so it all starts with the belief that's going to create ultimately your reality. But there are steps that we have to take. And so if your belief is that I don't believe that, I'm worth it, then it's going to create the thoughts, which is going to allow yourself to put yourself at the table, which is going to create a reality that you're not liking. But once you become more conscientious about that belief, it's going to change the thought. It's going to change the action and change your reality.
I love that. So where can we find you? Where can we watch you speak? Where can we hear you? What do you have going on?
It's a beautiful thing when I put it out there that I no longer want to teach and I want to speak full time. Things started to happen. And,
Crazy, right?
But you, like we talked about, is you have to put it out there. And, I get to be at in Atlanta at BaldyCon, which is amazing for women that are all bald, regardless if it's a choice or not, which is amazing. And so I'm so excited to be a keynote there in Atlanta, get to speak at United Way. But I have lots of things on the horizon, but you can just find me on any social media, McKenna Reitz or McKennaReitz.com. And I would love to connect and see how I can support them.
You are such an inspiration, and it just goes so beyond, your challenge. It goes beyond the alopecia. I know it's your mission to bring awareness to it, and I actually know a few people with it. So it is a beautiful experience to be able to talk about it and really own who you are, but you're just so much more, and I think you have so much value, and I really just appreciate you taking the time today to talk to me.
Thank you so much. And, be able to create these conversations, you are bringing so much light into other people's lives. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, hopefully we stay in touch, and I will put all the information of how to see you and follow along your journey in the show notes.
Love it. Thank you.
And that's it for today's Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you, McKenna Reitz, for joining me. It's such a great conversation, all about learning to really get to know who we truly are, lose those outside trappings, and accept and show up as our best self, as our whole self, as the self that we really are, building our personal brand and standing behind it every step of the way. I'll put all the information of how to get in touch and follow along with McKenna's journey in the show notes below. And as always, you can find Intentional Living with Courtney Meyers and Intentional Media at CourtneyMyers.com. That's where you'll find everything about our books, courses, and so much more. I look forward to talking to you next week. Bye.